Hello, my YouTube folks. You have probably seen the title of this video. It's titled something like, "What the hell is this nation going to do?" And I think that that's a very important and good question. And I've thought of 7 things here that I kind of want to point out about the current, situation about some of what's going on. And if you hear a bunch of rattling and noises and stuff, it is probably just little Mace here. Say hello, Mace. Yeah, yeah. Yes, I think that's the first time he's ever like really seen himself. He's totally like loving it. But anyway, you hear any rattling or noises or anything like that, it's probably just little Mace over here. Go do something with yourself. Okay, so before I get into this, it's going to be hard not to be political at all. I tend to feel that I fall pretty centrist. I am pretty liberal about some things, and I'm pretty conservative about some other things. I think it's important to be that way. I think there are some aspects of society and life that you need to hold a little closer to the chest, and then I think there's other stuff that's not really relevant, to us at large, and I'm certainly willing to be a little more liberal about those things. But these 7 things are really just calling a spade, and just kind of pointing out what. Now, I think that if we were going to be political about this, the conservatives that watch my channel, which are probably few and far between, and the liberals that watch my channel will probably wildly disagree about all this stuff, would be my guess. But let's see. Number 7, that would be wealth inequality. Wealth inequality is a big deal, okay? And I know that a lot of people out there feel like, it's wrong to, take from the rich or whatever, and I get that. But I'm kind of under the impression or the understanding that in order for capitalism to work well, money has to circulate within it, okay? And that having to print more is a negative thing, okay? So, now a bunch of my richer conservative friends would tell me that I'm really totally wrong here, but I don't think I am. I think that the top wealthy people, the 1%, and the 1% of top wealthy companies, they are literally just hoarding their money. If they're spending anything, they're spending the interest, like any rich entity would, right? The problem is it's not sufficient to stimulate the economy. The economy needs trillions of dollars poured into it, really, to stimulate it. I mean, look at what they did during COVID, and I mean, really, when you get down to it, none of it, we didn't really get that much money, you know. But the so do I think that the wealthy should be somewhat forced to get their money, and I mean like their actual money, not like, get their money put back into the system? Yeah, I think so. I think that'd be a good idea. I think it would be very good for the economy. But the other issue with that is, how do we ensure that everybody benefits from it? And that's going to be a big part of this video, is that there's always a loophole, and those loopholes are really the problem, right? What if we lived in a country that just didn't allow billionaireism past a certain point, just for the sake of argument, right? Like, let's just say you can only have $10 billion in your account, right? Well, until they start closing the loopholes, you're going to have rich guys just giving, $10 billion to all their friends to hold on to and shit like that. Because inherently, the biggest problem with humanity, for the most part, is that we are greedy. Okay, greed is very prevalent in in American culture and in world culture at large. If you are sitting on 400 and something $1 billion worth of value like Musk, and you're still trying to get more, you are greedy. You are greedy and borderline evil, right? Money is power in many ways. But I still think you could harvest from these people. If you just say took half their wealth, then they'd still be wealthier than everybody else in the world, or in the nation at least, and they would still be relative to each other, right? So nothing would really change. That money could be given to us in some lump sum, a fairly large one, because we're talking about like $26 trillion or something like that. And that money could be required to be spent within a certain period of time. And that would then trickle back up, right? It's just they. But again, if we lived in a nation where, say, billionairism past a certain amount wasn't allowed, we'd probably just accept that, right? Just like now we accept that people can be as filthy rich as they want. I want to point out again, and you can look this up on Wikipedia and stuff. And if you watch, I believe, a season 2 episode of The Twilight Zone called "The Man in the Bottle," they illustrate how people paid taxes back in the '60s. This couple wished for $1 million, okay, but they didn't wish for it after taxes, okay? So they get their $1 million, they give a lot of it away to the community, and then the tax man shows up. It's interesting how in all these old sci-fi shows, the tax man will show up like after dark, like at 8 p.m. or something. And I'm assured that it didn't happen that way back in the day, but TV, right? And he asks them like the basic questions, like do you guys have any like dependent children or anything like that? They're like, no, 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 no. Like they answer no to all the questions. We're just two people with $1 million. And he said, okay, so you owe us $900,000 of that. Okay. You want to know how this country like prospered back in the '60s and had a flourishing middle class? We just took rich people's money from them. That's how. That's how. You tax the fucking shit out of those people. 50 to 90%. And then Ronald Reagan came along and decided that, though, we couldn't do that anymore. Like, the country's just too prosperous, I guess. But wealth inequality needs to be addressed. I don't know how it's going to be addressed, but it needs to be. Because, and then the other problem with this is that eventually I've mentioned this in a previous video, they're just going to drive us into a situation where money is not worth anything. And, they'll either be a soft revolution and just, they'll eventually crumble because no one's buying anything, or there'll be a hard revolution, and then they'll be the first ones up against the wall going, but wait, I have money, I have money. And then, someone will say, money doesn't matter anymore. Maybe you should have thought of that, back when it did matter. And then the wall gets decorated in brain matter gray. Okay? Just putting that out there. That's how these things, tend to happen. Number 6, the jobs reports. The jobs reports suck. Be a fan of him or not, Robert Reich is a really smart guy. Not only is Robert Reich a really smart guy, he's a fairly old guy, and he was actually our labor secretary for, I believe, 8 years during the Clinton administration, which is considered to be a pretty good administration all around. But Robert Reich, being a former labor secretary, says that we need a jobs report to be at about 160,000 jobs a month. Okay? The jobs report has not been 160, even in the six figures, for some time now. They always put it out, and it always seems like it's in the six figures. Then the jobs report gets like revised down, and it's usually in the five figures. The last jobs report I heard a couple of months ago was like 40,000 jobs. Okay? 40,000 jobs being created when there are millions of people in this country that need jobs is insufficient. That is not going to work. So the question is, like, again, what are we going to do there? Our jobs are fairly quickly being replaced by AI. If you have a computer science degree right now and you haven't had a job for the last 10 or 20 years, you're pretty fucking screwed. Is really all there is to it. I mean, if you look up companies that like do computer programming and stuff like that, it's like laying off 4,000 workers, laying off 2,000 workers, laying off 7,000 workers. Um, you know, so if our jobs are going to continually be replaced, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to check out here because, oh, this is too socialist. I think we need to really reconsider this UBI thing, because at some point, I mean, we're almost there now. Even if you get a job now, it's very difficult to keep it. Most jobs are essentially temp jobs now. You know, you're going to be lucky to last past your probation. You might last a year or two, but like at some point, um, you won't have a job anymore. Uh, I don't know why people are so resistant towards at least a small UBI. I mean, even if our housing, just our housing and electricity were covered, just think about how, you know, much stress that would take off most people. I mean, and and at some point, you've got to determine, like, if we're putting out more than we're making with income tax, then how is even charging an income tax fair anymore? I mean, no, no. So we either need to start generating more jobs somehow, or we need to make sure that people are going to be taken care of if we're not going to give them the option to work in this country. Number five here is sort of related. The 40-hour work week. Um, with commutes growing longer, a 40-hour work week is just getting really long these days. Again, you might have an hour commute to work each way, so you're invested for 10 hours of the day. Um, you have to work your lunch hour now, so call it 12, pretty much. I mean, you're dedicating 12 hours of your day to, you know, getting to and from work and working and everything like that. And I guess maybe some people are fine with that. Uh, but there is another little crux of this, and that is that if you, um, say, just for math's sake, made all the jobs 20 hours instead of 40, you would technically double the number of jobs, right? And people would probably be able to at least pay for some stuff. I mean, in my mind, that's no way to live. I don't want to be able to just afford my utilities. In fact, I almost feel like that is worse than being homeless. I have been homeless, and I can almost confidently say that being homeless is almost positive to being in a dismal situation where literally the only thing you can afford to pay for is your utilities. That's a miserable state of existence. Uh, but the point is that there's just too much investment in our jobs, I think, these days, and most of us can get our work done in less than 40 hours. If people could get their work done in 20, 30 hours, why not just let them do that and go home? you know Pay them decent so they make decent money for the 4 to 6 hours they work. I just got done with a 30-hour work week schedule at this last temp job I had, and I thought that was great. Great, 6 hours a day. You just work. You have one tiny little break, one little 15-minute break in the middle, and then by the time you're done with your commute, it's like an 8-hour day. But I also just found it like the 2 hours less of work was just a lot less stressful because there was usually something to do. You know weren't looking for something to keep you busy the last couple hours or whatever. But I think if the 40-hour work week were manipulated a little bit, you could retake some of those manipulated hours and give them to other people that don't have jobs. You can kind of shift the hours around. Well, we're going to make less money then. Then we're going to make less money. Who fucking cares, dude? We're at a point now where people are going to start starving to fucking death. Everybody needs to be okay, all right? Everybody needs to be able to afford their utilities and some food, and really that's where we need to be. Okay? If everybody has to take a little less money to do that, then so be it. You know, it's not a situation where we can just have like uber wealthy people around anymore, I don't think. Uh, Number four, housing and vehicles are astronomically expensive, and adjusted for inflation, my father paid $75,000 in like 1980. It was really $20,000, but again, adjusted for inflation, I mean that's some pretty serious shit right there. When I mean that just shows that like inflation's a serious thing. If $20,000 in 1970 is or 1980 is worth 75K now, that's some pretty serious shit. I just looked this up. Um, and vehicles are getting to be almost as much as a house. You know, Even motorcycles are starting like a new motorcycle. For something that's not like really a beginner bike or something like that, for something like you can ride and commute with every day, I mean you're looking at probably 12, $13,000 just for a motorcycle that's less than 1,000 cc's. Uh, the and housing is just, I mean, it's the same pile of bricks that it was 40 years ago. So I'm not sure why suddenly houses are worth $400,000, that were worth 75, 40 years ago, you know. Uh, I understand that's how like money and inflation work, but still, uh, the something needs to be done about this. And if we're not going to get a UBI of some kind, then affordable housing is the next thing there. Oh, but then you're gonna have like slums and you're gonna have poor people everywhere. Well, what the fuck are we gonna do? Would you rather these people be like out on the street, like taking a shit, like in the ditch in front of your house, or would you rather them have like a house somewhere? Okay, You're not the one having to live in that community. Just, you know, uh, it's I don't know. We Something's got to be done there. We need an affordable vehicle that you don't like that slate truck. I don't think that's going to catch on. But we need an affordable vehicle available in this country, and we need affordable housing. It's a reasonable amount every month or reasonable purchase price. Number three, grocery prices are sky high. I've been eating beans and rice since my wife asked for a divorce. So I've been essentially eating beans and rice for like the last 2 years almost every day. And I make those beans and rice relatively the same way. And I have seen the price of that go up, not changing any ingredients. So just the cost of a couple of days worth of beans and rice has gone up like between $2 and $4 depending on where you're shopping. You know, and I'd like to be eating something else, but I mean, uh, it just isn't really an option. But grocery prices need to. The issue with prices, though, is they seldom come back down. But I'm afraid that that's just going to have to start happening. Okay, just if this tariff situation can get straightened the fuck out, then people just need to bring their prices down. Because it's getting to where like people are growing their own produce and stuff like that, and just not even dealing with the store if they don't have to. I've seen people in Arlington going and fishing in little canals and stuff just to eat. It's like gotten to that point. Um, Number two, there's very little security in anything anymore, especially like at a job. Like I said, everything's so temp these days, and it's always been more difficult to kind of get a job as an older person or a middle-aged person, but it's getting damn near impossible now, and like you just can't be sure about anything. You have no security with your housing if you don't own it. You have no security at your job. You have very little security even in your relationship these days. Your relationship can be fine one day and it will be different the next. Like Billy Joel said, I came home to a woman I did not recognize. You know. All right, number one. In my opinion, people have really lost sight of what's important. Um, in my opinion, and in many really wealthy people's opinions, wealth is not about money per se. Wealth is about being able to control your own time and decide what you do every day and how you do it and how long you do it. That is wealth, okay? Being able to spend time with your family when you want to without anybody telling you can't is wealth, okay? That is not it's not necessarily money. You know, being able to decide, yeah, I'm gonna spend Christmas Eve with my niece and brother, uh, rather than your job saying like, oh yeah, we can't give you that day off, it's blacklisted. You know, uh, I think I think people have replaced money with those things. Because all you ever hear in America these days is how you don't work hard enough. I mean, I literally carry two jobs most of the time, and it's gotten to the point where I have so little time in one block that like I have to release 4 YouTube videos over a weekend because that's the only time I have to film them. All right. And you know, I have another huge problem with people kind of putting their work ethic off on you. Like, used to have this that work with this employee who she was all about like working holidays and stuff like that. So our manager would be like, okay, well, you know, we're trying to decide if the store is going to be open Christmas Eve or not, and you know, how many of you want to work? And it's always this one employee who shouts out like, "Oh, I don't have a problem doing that. I don't have a problem working. I don't need to do this, that, or the other." And then it's like you feel guilty because you don't want to. You know, it's like ask people this question in private. Okay, this isn't the type of thing you ask people as a group. Ask people this question in private and then go from there. The video is way long. I hope I can upload it. If not, I might have to edit the sucker. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know how you feel about that stuff. And Goemon Ronin signing out. Have a good night.